From milk to meat, the journey grows. Tender steps to stronger bones. Through the desert, through the wheat, every word is bread to eat.
All right, Milk to Meat family, we are back again. And if you are listening to this, I can only assume that all the other podcasts you listen to are now over or don't have any other episodes. So I got Travis that one. He's got nothing. So anyway, it's me, one of your two hosts, Rob Looper, with my buddy Big Travis.
Way to inspire confidence, Rob.
That just hit me when I was doing it. I was like, yeah, they're probably listening because they've exhausted all the other podcasts that they listen to, and they're like, oh yeah, there's this one. I haven't listened to this one yet. Oh, we have too much fun on this show, Trav. I'm telling you, I enjoy it. It's fun. So anyway, how you doing, buddy?
Good, man. You?
Oh, you know what? I am just living the dream. You know, so
Yeah.
you know, it is what it is, right? So I never have really understood what that. I never have really, it is what it is. What is it? You know what I'm saying?
It's usually never anything good.
That's right. You know what I'm saying? We could do a whole podcast episode on just that.
It's never been, I found $1 million today.
It is what it is. By the way, if that's you, please comment in the site. We're not going to ask you for money. We just want to know that there's somebody who found $1 million and it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Please comment and share so we can thumbs up and we can rejoice with you. The Bible says rejoice with those who rejoice.
That's it.
So look at us being biblical. You know what I mean? Like we just want to celebrate with you. That's it right there. Look at us trying to be all like, biblical. Anyway, boy, that was an interesting intro. That was a.
So
on this episode of Milk to Meat, we're going to continue talking about the church and why it matters. And this one, really, I want to start off with scripture on this because it really takes us into what we're talking about. But it's Acts 2:42, and it says they were continually devoting themselves to the apostles' teaching and to fellowship and to the breaking of bread and to prayer. So we're going to talk about today, what did the early church prioritize? So, and when we talk about the early church, really we're talking about, let's kind of define that because we could talk about, medieval or whatever. We're really talking about the church in Acts.
Yeah.
So if you're reading let's even go further. When you're reading the New Testament, you got Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. Okay, that book next, that's Acts.
Yeah.
So that's the book we're talking about, and that's the church we're talking about because there was, that's the early church. That's really where the belief in the followers of Jesus really started having church, really started propagating the gospel, and so that's what we're talking about. So, the early church prioritized 4 foundational pillars. So, the apostles. And we'll talk about that, who they are. The foundational pillars: the apostles' teachings, deep fellowship, breaking bread, which is communion and communal meals, and prayer. And these spiritual disciplines were bound together by radical generosity, where believers shared their resources so no one in the community was left in need. Now, this wasn't forced socialism; this was chosen socialism, and we'll talk about the difference there as well, because there is a difference.
Absolutely. Forced socialism is not the same.
Don't let anyone tell you that. I've actually heard people say that.
And there actually can be a good argument for it.
No. Okay, so we'll just jump into this part right now because I don't want people not listening to the end and thinking that they can walk away saying that socialism is biblical. When you decide as a community to bring everything you have, and they did actually, it says they brought everything that they had
into the storehouse,
and they gave as people had need. Okay, they did that, and they chose to do that, and then through biblical wisdom and care and compassion, they did that. But everybody said, okay, here's the way the mentality worked. I'm going to go out and work hard, and I'm going to bring this in so that we can, as a community, help provide for everyone.
Right.
That is totally different than socialism as it exists under uh, communist regime dictatorships, where it's like, hey, everybody is going to be equal, and you cannot maximize your potential. And you can do it because you see, these people were working as unto the Lord, saying, the Lord is providing. So therefore, he is providing so that I can help provide for others, not as a dictator or as a socialistic uh, society says, well, hey, look, you have the haves and you have the have-nots, and then basically everybody gets whatever the government tells them. It's a whole different structure in which the Lord is dictating. When the Lord is dictating and people go, well, that somebody has to do it. Well, yes, and that's fine. But when those people are being led by the Lord and being held accountable through the systems that were in place, it is a 100% different system, and it's not actually, it's a theocracy, not a dictatorship, if you will. It's
Right.
run
You're not forced
socialistically.
into it.
Right, and actually, you could leave it anytime you wanted if you
Yeah.
wanted to stop. So that's the difference. It wasn't a system in which you were bound so
Comply or die.
comply or die. Really, yeah, exactly. So that I just want to I want to get that out of the way.
It was actually a way for the community to raise everyone up.
right,
You
absolutely.
know,
and
I think of this. You know, let's go back to that time period. You know, most people specialized in something.
sure,
You had bakers, you had farmers, you
Right.
had
Blacksmiths.
storekeepers,
Yeah.
blacksmiths. Well, if let's say you're a baker, well, you can't eat but so much bread.
right,
So you take your excess bread and bless others.
yes,
Well, the guy who over here has a farm, well, he can't eat just meat every day.
right,
So he takes some of his meat and he
Right.
puts it in the storehouse. So
Yeah.
now we have meat and bread and everybody can sandwiches.
right,
So we're lifting one another up
yes,
in a voluntary way.
right. And that overage, and not even that overage. Sometimes they gave out of even when there was they didn't have
Right.
overage. But then when somebody fell on hard times, they could actually lift them out of those hard times. They
Right.
could help. They could assist. All of those things, so that it talks about nobody went hungry, nobody, and so when people were in need, they were able to assist, and it really worked in a real kingdom
Yeah.
type fashion. Now, we go, well, how do they make sure that people didn't take advantage? And here's what I'm going to say: when it's on a small scale, you can really make sure that people are not just
Right.
laying out of work and not working. You can actually go, hey,
Well, I don't
hey,
have to
Simeon
work
over
because
there, or
Bob's
hey,
over here.
Fred, Bob, hey, Bob's just laying, you can keep people, again, let's go back to last episode, the episode of 4, accountability.
Mhm.
So when you have that accountability, you can do that because you're actually, it's not such a leviathan like a centralized government where there's all this red tape and everything else. You actually can see where the money's going. You can do that kind of thing because you actually have boots on the ground and you're actually handing the help to the person. So
And that's
To-
what the local church is for.
that's exactly
You're
right.
taking care of the immediate need of
Yes,
your community.
absolutely.
And then, we see it in today's society, and I'm sure it happened even then, is if you had a large group that
Yeah.
could go and help another large group,
Ab-
now the accountability is not as tight,
Right.
but it's still same concept.
But I also want to say this: that some of it relies on the Lord, and here's what I mean. People don't. This isn't as talked about, but it is true, and that is Jesus went to the cross knowing people were going to take advantage of His grace.
Absolutely.
So we aren't always called to say, well, what if people take advantage? Well, if people take advantage of the Lord, then it's on the Lord to deal with that sometimes. It's not always on us to make sure that nobody ever takes advantage of the Lord. He's I'm not sure people realize it. God's a pretty big guy.
Yeah.
He doesn't necessarily, he allows us to help him, but he doesn't, and I'm using air quotes here, guys, need our help. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
God, I don't, Trev, check me on this, because we're talking about accountability. I don't think God, first of all, God never sleeps or slumbers, but I'm going to use the word away. I don't think God has ever looked in the mirror at himself and said, boy, I sure do need Rob Luber's help today. Guys, if we ever get to the point where God says, I need Rob
We're in
Luber,
trouble.
we are so much trouble. Like, seriously, God doesn't need anything from us. He works with us out of his just absolute magnanimous love and grace. but he doesn't need our help. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I like that when we defend God as though God's like, well, thank you. Like, I needed that. He doesn't. We should defend the faith. Okay, don't
Yeah.
get me wrong. I'm not saying let's go around denying him like Peter did, and I'm not getting on Peter, but I'm just saying, because it says if you deny me before men, I'll deny you before my Father. I'm not saying we deny him, but sometimes the way we defend him actually doesn't bring glory to the Lord. We shouldn't be standing on a corner, with signs that are just absolutely something Jesus would never say, calling people murderers and all these. Let's be clear, but we're really getting off topic. But anyway,
It happens. So let's start with the apostles' teachings.
yes, absolutely. So the apostles' teaching, they had a steadfast commitment to learning sound doctrine, the scriptures, and the teachings of Jesus. Now, the first thing I think we need to understand is sometimes people don't understand who the apostles were. Um, the apostles were the disciples,
Yeah.
plus one, and so to be an apostle, you actually had to have seen Jesus in the flesh, and you had to um, have been with him, seen him in the flesh, and been a part of that. Now, the reason I said plus one is there is an apostle, the apostle Paul, and he is called an apostle because if you go back and read, he had what is called the Damascus Road experience, in which he did see Jesus in the flesh. He had an encounter with Jesus, and so there was a lot of things that happened on that Damascus Road,
Yeah.
and so he is considered one of the apostles as well. So that is how, and again, the reason that we talk about the apostles and the teachings of Jesus is you go back to um, how things worked in Jewish society. When you had a rabbi, um, and Jesus was, that means teacher, and Jesus was the rabbi of rabbis. Okay, obviously because he was God in the flesh. But when you had a rabbi, you would have their disciples, which and in this instance, their apostles, which would, after the rabbi is gone, so a rabbi who is not Jesus would die, the teachings would carry on. And so people would follow that rabbi. So their disciples, their apostles, would carry on the teachings, and they would make rulings on the teachings, and they would tell people what the teachings that the rabbi said meant, and all of those things. Well, Jesus died and rose again, and then he ascended into heaven. Well, the apostles would basically carry on the teachings of Jesus, teaching everybody what Jesus did, said, and then expounding on that doctrinally in a way that is sound and carried on. And in fact, Jesus told Peter, you better had sought the Holy Spirit before you make these rulings, because people are going to be affected by these. What you bind on earth will be bound in heaven. What you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. So he was basically letting him know this is going to happen. So it's very, very interesting that he was telling him this was going to happen
Yeah.
before it even happened. I mean, he did a lot of that, foretelling. But the apostles' teachings were critical because they were with Jesus.
Right.
They were taught by
and
him.
on that topic, they were being with Jesus' fellowship.
Yeah.
Building that community
Yes.
from the very beginning, when it
Yes.
started with Jesus and the disciples.
Yep.
And,
Absolutely.
And as it grew.
Yep. And they would write letters. They would go to different places. I mean, they would, you see this probably some of the most prolifically with Paul going around. And I mean, there are maps in your Bible, by the way. You can see the journeys that Paul took. But you see these letters, First, Second, Third Peter. You see, Ephesians, Colossians, First and Second Corinthians, First and Second Thessalonians, where they're writing to all of these communities, right? These churches, and you're seeing these tight knit communities that are doing all of these things. That, yes, they have issues. Yes, sometimes they're being taken to task, but they are communities that are tight knit. And in these, and in that day and age, the way that the church worked is the synagogues and the churches were usually built in the center of town.
Yeah.
Because life revolved around the synagogue. The synagogue was the center of life.
Yeah.
And so that's how it was. And so it was an incredibly tight-knit community. And sometimes it was because, depending on who was the emperor of Rome or who they were under, whether it was a person, whatever, sometimes it could mean the difference between life and death.
Yeah.
So they were incredibly tight knit because sometimes they had to rely on each other for whether or not they were going to live or die.
Yeah.
So
That's all they had.
yeah, exactly. So and the breaking of bread, they would celebrate the Lord's Supper and share communal meals together to signify the connectedness. Now, interestingly enough, the Lord's Supper they did, but they would have Passover. Obviously, they would do these things, and they would have communion because He told them to. But also, what's interesting, there was a lot. There was a lot. Um, Having a meal with somebody is an incredible sign of fellowship. Okay. Now, not only that though, when you do this, there's a lot in that time period that was done over a meal. But there was also some things that happened with between Peter and Paul, where doctrinally we have things that begin to happen because Peter was being influenced by the Jerusalem Jews.
Yeah.
And Paul's like, what are you doing? Like, you know better. Like, don't start making the Gentile believers start trying to be Jews. They're not. And you can't, like,
We're not going back.
we're not going backwards. We're going forwards. And so that's where you have this thing where he's like, don't call anything I've made clean, unclean. And you have this where Peter then starts to go, yeah, you're probably right. And that's where you start to say, hey, look, you're not even sitting with the Gentiles. What are you doing? You're like, I can't do that because I'm a Jew. No, dude, you could sit with anybody. Jesus did. Like, this is ridiculous. What are you doing? Again, that's a future episode where we break all this stuff down.
Right, but that was holding him.
That was holding him back. Yeah, he was holding to a different standard that you can't do. And so that's why right now some people have asked me is, it's interesting because if people know I'm Jewish, do you eat pork? Do you eat this? When I go to somebody's house, if they have pizza and it's pepperoni, yeah. I mean, I only have one slice because I have, diabetically speaking, it's not the healthiest thing. But let me just be clear. If somebody cooks something, I'm going to, because again, we're eating together. We're
Right.
breaking bread together. There is not a way in the world that I'm going to insult somebody by saying, I can't eat that because you don't understand. Jesus would not have done that. I'm just going to tell you that right now. In my opinion, as a believer, looking at the doctrine, looking at how Paul broke it down, looking how Peter answered and was corrected by Paul, I'm going to tell you right now, I do not believe that a Jew should sit there and go, now, in my house, do I eat it? And I'm going to be honest with you. Yeah, sometimes I do. Because let me just be clear. Bacon's good. I like the Jim Gaffigan line where he says bacon is the only thing bacon is the only thing you cook that actually cheers for itself. You know what I mean? Yay, bacon! By the way, he is hilarious.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? But anyway, I digress. We need to be able to sit with people and eat. Like, there's something that happens over a meal. So when you're eating with a non-believer, when you're, like Jesus with Zacchaeus, when you eat and when you do these things, there's something there's an intimacy that happens. I think it'll allow you to share the gospel sometimes. You know what I'm saying? But if you sit with somebody, you're like, oh, I can't eat that. I can't eat what you made me. So the hard-earned money that they spent, the time that they spent, and now you can't eat it. Like, you've insulted them. Like, you might as well just shut the door because you're not going to get anywhere.
Right.
So anyway, but because they broke bread together. They sat, they ate, they had these communal meals. There's something that happens when you sit and you eat together, and a lot of business and things were done over meals. But also prayer, regular corporate fervent communication with God, especially in times of hardship. And this is shocking because I don't know we do this all the time, Trav. When making decisions,
Yeah.
they would ask the Lord.
A lot of times we make decisions and then pray.
Right. We ask God to bless the decision we've already made, not
Right.
which decision should we make. We're like, well, we're going to make this one.
I need you, Lord, to support my idea.
My idea.
Just hear me out here.
Just
I think
yeah.
I know a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
God's like, yeah.
How many things have you created today?
Yeah, exactly. With your own dirt, by the way. Don't use my dirt. Use your dirt.
Yeah.
I love that. I don't know if you ever heard that joke. Have you heard that joke? Where God says, where scientists tell God, I don't need you.
Yeah.
And he's like, really? He's like, yeah, we've mastered creating things. We can create things now. We can clone things. We can do it. And he goes, oh, show me. So they grab a handful of dirt. He goes, whoa, stop. Get your own dirt.
Yeah.
And the idea is we can only create from what's been created. We're not sitting there going, oh, by the way, out of nothing.
Yeah.
Okay. Created my own stuff. No. From what God created, we can create other stuff, but we can't, A lot of people go, well, we can create. We don't need God. I'm sorry. You know, it's kind of like, what is it? The first law of thermodynamics or whatever, that you can't create, you can't, no energy can just be created or lost.
Right.
You can only change matter
Right.
states. You can't, God can go, hey, you see this? There's nothing in my hand, and I'll make something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But we can't just make something.
You know, it's probably a good thing.
Oh yeah,
Because
that is a great
from what
thing.
we have taken from him and created is
We are
is rarely ever anything
destructive.
good.
Like seriously, like
So if we could really create,
hey, that's probably why he doesn't give us that power.
I
to
tell
do it.
people all the time. I said, "You want the evidence of God?" I said, "We're still here."
Yes.
Because if it was not for him, we would have destroyed ourselves within about 3 minutes.
Yeah. No, absolutely. No, that's facts. That is facts. But prayer is a key, and praying together. You know, the Bible talks about corporate prayer,
Yeah.
and so we need to be praying together as well, obviously as our own, but allowing the Lord to lead and to guide us, and to seek that leading and that guiding. So, but that's really again, very high level. We're in 101, so there'll be more, but that is really what the early church focused on. So my challenge, and I think our challenge for you guys is, are we focusing on those things?
Yeah.
When was the last time, and this is going to sound trite, but when was the last time you invited somebody from church over for a meal? When was the last time you broke bread with somebody? You know, when was the last time you really started focusing on making sure you had sound doctrine? When was the last time you even looked at the doctrine and said, is it sound? I mean, again, I'm not picking on Church of God or whatever denomination you have, but
Yeah.
when's the last time you took the opportunity to really dig into the doctrine to make sure that you understand the doctrine?
Yeah. And that's what it really says.
Yeah, exactly. So kind of look into that.
Yeah.
Make sure that we are, because the early church is our example.
That's your homework.
That's your homework for this week. So thanks for joining us. If you have any questions, we would love to hear from you. Comment, like, subscribe, bring somebody else into the Milk to Meat family, and we will, or give us, if you have a question or you have a show topic you'd like us to go over, let us know. You can always email us at discipleship, milk to meat discipleship @gmail.com, and we would love to hear from you. And we will see you on the next episode of Milk to Meat.